How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling, and I do not have a headphone, so I can't hear Brian or anything just yet. But anyway, we'll be talking. We're going to have a real interesting show the next 2 hours. We're going to have Terry Funk up in about 25 minutes, along with his co-author, Scott Williams, and we'll be talking about the ECW show that he's doing, which isn't technically an ECW show, and the ECW show that he's not doing, and his feelings on that, as well as we want to take your calls as far as his book goes, because it's been out for a while, and you can call up about that at 1-800-878-PLAY. And in the second hour, we will also be joined by Bill Goldberg. We're talking to him about The Longest Yard, which I actually saw The Longest Yard last night, and it was I thought it was pretty entertaining. I mean, I've seen the original, and I'm getting my headphones right now. Okay.
Testing.
Hold on. Hello there.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can hear you.
I was making sure something didn't go wrong because I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, because the headphones. Okay, well, anyway, everything's taken care of. Everything's fine.
Cool.
Okay, saw The Longest Yard. Brian, you didn't see it, right?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, entertaining movie. Liked it. Did you see the original?
No.
Okay, it's not as good as the original.
But I better not interview Burt Reynolds.
What?
I better not interview Burt Reynolds.
I know, really. I know he slapped the reporter who didn't see the original, right?
I'll teach him a lesson.
How dare not to watch that movie from 30 years ago, for the Burt Reynolds classic. But the wrestlers all did pretty well, actually. I thought Sapp and Kevin Nash probably the best. Kevin Nash was good, I gotta say.
Did he steal the show?
No, absolutely not. But he was good.
That's good.
I mean, I could see a lot of people think that Sapp's going to get, a lot more roles out of this one, and I can see that one happening, and I can see Nash getting more. Goldberg, just was Bill Goldberg. I don't know that there was anything, good or bad about his performance. I liked Austin, too. I mean, he played, a redneck heel and, pretty hated guy and did pretty well. So anyway, the movie's a big hit. I mean, first week anyway. Reviews so-so, but it's not the kind of a movie that's going to get really great reviews. I want to remind everyone you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. We have plenty of lines available right now, and we'll start taking phone calls on subjects other than Terry Funk and other than Bill Goldberg for the first 20 minutes, and then after that we want to start taking phone calls about Terry Funk, for Terry Funk, on anything you want to talk about. We can talk about the ECW situation, talk about Terry Funk's long career, his book. We have got one line available at 1-800-878-PLAY, so you can jump on board. We're going to be talking about just the normal wrestling stuff before we get to Terry Funk in about 20 minutes. I want to run down a few things before we get started. Number one is SmackDown moving to Fridays in September with the new season. That one blindsided everyone, and it's incumbent. I mean, one of the keys to this SmackDown is going to be the draft coming up, which actually starts a week from Monday, and will take place all through June. And they got to get some big stars, or people they can make big stars, onto that SmackDown side. So because they got to go in September with something real hot to so when they make the switch over, that they keep their audience and get their audience into the new pattern.
They actually need to draft big stars. I'm not a big fan of the idea of drafting people to become big stars because that really hasn't worked for the most part in the past when they've done the draft. But, yeah, it's interesting to me because, like, I have a lot of friends that watch SmackDown, and I've talked to a lot of them about the Friday deal, and none of them care because half of them don't even watch SmackDown, and the other half always tape it. So I don't know what this is going to mean.
But that's, what's the interesting thing about the SmackDown show is that, more people watch SmackDown than Raw, but people who are into wrestling, like people who read websites and stuff, they don't watch SmackDown religiously.
No.
Because they look at the spoilers and then it's kind of like, well, if I feel like watching it, I do. But to the general public, they do watch it. They watch it, whereas Raw, because it is live and you don't know what's going to happen until it happens, people go out of their way. I mean, like on our site, there's a huge difference between the number of people and the reaction that we get to a Raw show as to a SmackDown show, even though it's, almost every week, 8 weeks out of 10, more people are going to be watching the SmackDown show around the country than the Raw show. And I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. That those numbers between Raw moving to USA and SmackDown moving to Friday, that could change. That probably will change. And Raw will become more, Raw already is like the A show. It's going to become more of the A show.
Yeah.
Unless they really work hard in the next month and on the writing to change that. Also, TNA off television for right now, although that may be very temporary. And
one thing, actually going back real quick, I was just thinking about the Friday slot. If they're going to be doing the Saturday night main events every now and then, Friday might not be the worst night because you can plug something that's the next day.
But that's right now. That's only twice a year.
Yeah, it's twice a year. But I don't know. That might, I don't know. It might encourage them to maybe try to do something with Fridays as opposed to, just flat out considering the B show and letting it go.
What's interesting is between UFC and the WWE, they're going to be on. One's going to be on Friday, the other's going to be on Saturday, and yet both are being used by the network theoretically to attract the very viewers in both cases on both networks that they're on that are out more on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah,
But I mean, I know why they did it with SmackDown. I mean, SmackDown, it was not like we're here to sabotage WWE. It's not like anything like that. What it was that they have a really hot show, the new Chris Rock thing, that they think is going to be like the big hit on the network, and they wanted it on Thursday, which is the hottest night for TV, and it was a lot higher priority than SmackDown, and that's really all this decision was based on. We're going to go real quick. We're going to go to Eric in Indiana, who is with OVW. Eric, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Dave?
Not too much. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Just basically wanted to call in. I'm actually an athletic trainer at OVW in Louisville.
Uh-huh.
Just kind of tell you that, I appreciate something other than biceps to call into and to listen to, because it seems like since, a few years ago when Vince bought up all the other products, there's just WWE to talk about, and I appreciate the show. I appreciate everything you've done in the past with Jim Cornette and everything like that. And I just kind of wanted to call in and tell you that.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. Bryan and I religiously watch OVW.
I've heard that. Actually, I think I sent an email to maybe Bryan, who wrote a pretty good column about OVW and Southern Style Wrestling. I think it was Bryan who I wrote the email to thanking him for that as well.
Uh-huh.
So, it's always good to know that you guys are keeping up with it, because you may be the few, other than the creative team at WWE, that actually watches it that doesn't live in Louisville. So
we're not sure about the creative.
Well, I've actually heard recently that they've been told that they have to.
Yeah, that is right. That they have been told that lately.
That's something that they were told, I think, about 2 months ago. So I don't know how well they listen to that, but that's what I've heard.
Well, I mean, as far as like Eminem and the Heartthrobs, or used to be the Heartbreakers, they at least were noticed, and they were brought in. I don't think they've been brought in with quite 100% the effectiveness that they were used in OVW. Partially, music and just a couple of minor changes, but they're one of the few acts that were created in OVW that went to WWE and were not totally revamped. So
right.
It's clear that the mentality that seemed to be there in the past, that we are going to create new characters for all these people, even if their existing characters work, that at least they're open-minded enough to go like, well, if they've got a hot character, we're not going to tamper with it too much.
Right. But also, creative had spent a couple of days at OVW prior to Eminem and the Heartthrobs debuting, so it may have been the case or it may not have been, but it is good that they're not completely revamping their characters like you say, because...
Although they revamped the Heartthrobs too much.
Well, what are they doing with the Heartthrobs? Because I know in Tacoma they were doing the Ohio Valley gimmick.
Yeah.
In Louisville, they were somewhat of an ambiguously gay duo, and to, throw it out there. And when they decided to bring them up on the road, they decided that they weren't going to be gay anymore. Now, I don't know how much they really have shown of that, because they haven't really put a lot of TV time into the Heartthrobs yet, other than just a match here or there. They haven't really done any promos or anything like they did with Eminem. So we'll see how they go with it.
Yeah. But anything else going on over there? Or?
Not really. Just a lot of different chaos with Jim Cornette being not with us for a few weeks, which is it's a good thing for everybody because Jim needed a break. You know, he said a lot the past few weeks that he's just kind of getting burnt out. He's booked like 300 some shows in a row, and you know the only break we really get is 2 or 3 weeks of Christmas, and that's it.
Yeah.
And he just week after week he was getting burnt out, and I think it started to show. And you know, I think when he comes back, it'll be fresh. Everything will be good. We have some new talent coming in with Atlanta possibly opening up. We have, you know, less of a roster, but still we can highlight the talent we have. I think it'll be good just in general for everybody.
Are there any guys in OBW that have maybe not started on television that you may have heard from practice or something that are guys to kind of watch for?
There are a few. We have some working dark matches and things like that right now, just kind of to see what's going on with that, see how we're going to use them, how we're going to fit them into the situation. Right now, with the chaos on television, we're not really featuring anybody new, probably until Jimmy comes back, I don't think. Alan, you know, has been kind of running the show, Alan Lance, and you know, with Lance leaving in July, I think Al's trying to kind of take the torch as much as possible because Lance is, you know, he is leaving here in just a month or two. So I think there are a couple of guys. Ken Anderson is not really been shown on TV a lot. He is, I think, going to be a big-time player coming up very soon. Chet Jablonski, a couple of guys that have been featured maybe in for either dark matches or opening matches on TV that could possibly get some good pushes coming up pretty soon.
I have kind of a weird question. On the last show, or the last one I shot, when Alexis Lurie was back there was about 100 guys in the backstage area. Is it like that every week?
Well, the deal with that is that we have a small backstage area, and we have a lot of wrestlers, which is one of the advantages to Atlanta opening up. Hopefully, we won't be getting as many new guys in and out, as crowded as much. That particular night, I think we had some extra guys from our amateur class that just happened to show up. But yeah, it's, you know, Danny Davis, we have an excellent arena compared to where we were before. But, you know, Danny is really, we have a really nice place, but the backstage area is just kind of small, unfortunately. You know, that backstage spot that they did, I think there were extra people shoved in there to just kind of add to the chaos, because we were, you know, showing how chaotic things were without Jimmy.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely not a spacious area during television time.
We have right now, as our guest, we have both Scott Williams, who's the co-author of the book More Than Just Hardcore, and of course one of the all-time great professional wrestlers, one of the greatest of all time, Terry Funk. Terry, Scott, how are you guys today?
Hey, Dave.
Hey.
Doing great.
Good job, Terry. Good. Scott, I wanted to ask you, being that right before I left, Scott sent me his column in today's, it's in today's Galveston paper, right?
Right.
Okay, and it'll be up, actually it'll be up on the website tomorrow morning, or later tonight. But, Scott, you got some issues, and there's some interesting things there, some issues with WWE. You want to go through some of them?
Well, my column this week, and I've already gotten a few hate missives on it from wrestling fans just in my local area.
That means you're doing
the column dealt with how lucky WWE is that wrestling tends to fly under the mainstream media radar.
Well, it really does now.
And the reason they're lucky is that they've made some implicit and explicit racially offensive remarks, things that would have set off a firestorm if they were said on any other program that did catch people's attention. I don't know if anybody remembers this. About 8 years ago, there was an episode of NYPD Blue where Andy Sipowicz, the lead character played by Dennis Franz, referred to another character using the N-word, and it was all over the place. But some of the stuff that they've done the last couple of weeks in WWE, I think at least compares to that, and there's not a peep out of it. And I don't know if it's just because Phil Mushnick's not in TV Guide anymore, or what the reason is, but they don't get the attention that other programs doing the same kind of garbage would be getting.
Okay, well, there is, you know, we've talked about it before. Right now, I think that they are able to get away with pretty much almost anything. One thing, Terry, have you? And I mean, I guess you've been around wrestling longer than anyone, especially since, as many people know, besides being a wrestler for 40 years, he's second generation, so he's been around the wrestling business literally since he was born, and that was 60 years ago, and so almost 61 years ago. Oh my God! And you're wrestling. You're wrestling this week or in a couple.
Well, I think I am, Dave. My opponent doesn't.
But Terry, one of the things that was kind of been an issue in the last couple of weeks is the whole deal. Are you pretty familiar with what the whole Edge Matt Hardy Lita deal?
I'm really not.
Okay, well, Scott, what happened is that Matt Hardy and Lita, Amy Dumas, were dating for several years, probably 4 to 6 years, and Edge. I mean, it was actually like one of these things where, in a sense, it was a storyline far better than the writers could do, and they're trying to turn it into a storyline. In that she was, I guess, fooling around with Edge. Matt found out, they broke up, and it became in kind of out on the internet and thing. It was bigger than anything that was going on in the real news of wrestling, and eventually what happened was, I guess WWE felt that they couldn't have them all work together because of the issue. So Matt Hardy, who was the one who kind of, got dumped, then got fired because of the three, he was deemed the least valuable, which made him a very sympathetic babyface for a while there with nowhere to wrestle, although he's going to probably wind up with TNA. Although I am shocked WWE hasn't brought him back because whenever those guys are out there, they're chanting, we want Matt, we want Matt. It's like a brilliant angle, except they're not doing anything with it. And then storyline-wise, in the last couple of weeks, they put Edge and Lita together, and it's actually a great heat pairing in the sense of, because the people know the story and they absolutely hate Edge, and quite frankly, they hate her too. And she was a babyface, so they turned her heel. And they're using Kane in the Matt Hardy role, like he was the wronged one, that she cheated on Kane, even though everyone knows the real story. And it's really it's a unique storyline. I don't know. What do you think about all that? Digesting all of that one.
I'll tell you what I think about that very simply. It's a unique storyline because that is a shame whenever that storyline can take precedent over your strongest line that you have. Yeah. That is what's absurd. That is what's wrong. Something is wrong. Mm-hmm. Somebody, they have to, it's just like the ECW situation, he still doesn't get it that he can't buy, own, or steal ECW. He can take the name, but he can't never be the product. Because as soon as he becomes the product, it's Vince McMahon. No longer ECW of a bunch of starving to death wrestlers to very talented wrestlers that every one of them believed in merit. And merit does not exist in his world of wrestling.
One thing, I wanted to get in touch, talk to you about this one as well, is you turned down the WWE show.
Yes.
And you're
absolutely
okay. And explain why, because it's a pretty big deal.
Because I am incapable of doing two. To be very honest with you, I can't do them. And WWE wanted to pay me 3 times what I was getting from Shane Douglas or whoever that is. I don't know who it is. But hopefully they got some money at least.
Well, they got it.
Hopefully they pay what they say they're going to.
They got the advance. I know that.
Yeah, and as Vince is, it's a deal to where I wanted to be where I want to be. If that makes any sense to you, I want to be a performer. I love the product that we put out. It has a special place in my heart. And I'm very serious about this. It really does. A lot of people may not think that. The money makes no difference in this time of my life. I hope the other guys go there and wrestle there and do wonderfully, but I don't want to be a part of his organization because he is not ECW. Paul Heyman is not ECW. The Sandman is not ECW. Todd Gordon is not ECW. Terry Funk is not. It was a group of misfits, a group of nuts, a group of crazies, whatever you wanted to call them, that were in need of a stage. And ECW was a stage, and we did our damnedest to stay alive. And then he came along because he was out of gas, evidently, as far as producing DVDs and other things, and he came up with the ECW idea. So he puts that out there, and it's very much of a success. So now he's going to do it again. So who's going to really, truly profit by this? It's not ECW. It's nothing to do with ECW. It's Vince McMahon. That's what drives me crazy. It's nobody else, but you're not watching ECW.
One of the things...
You're watching Vince McMahon. Do you think Eric Bischoff would come into, dadgum ECW? Why, heck no, he wouldn't. He wouldn't be caught within 2 miles of there.
Did you watch Raw on Monday?
No, of course not.
I
hate to say that. No, I don't mean that, really. I don't mean that, of course not. I pick it up whenever I've got time to pick it up, and I didn't have time to pick it up on Monday night.
Okay, well, one of the things that, I thought, it was a real interesting thing because they tried to blend history in, although it was quite a unique version of history. The history that they tried to say was that Eric Bischoff destroyed ECW despite Vince McMahon's financial and best efforts to keep it alive. And Vince is there to save it, Eric's there to ruin it, and Paul's there to do the show. But one of the things that I think that in their mind, you know how political this is, and now I'm convinced of this one, is that if they had done a show called ECW and not involved Vince McMahon and not had Vince McMahon said, I support it, I endorse it, and not had a WWE television storyline geared towards the remake of this, and it did well, there would be a certain thing of, we've got this writing crew, and we have 4 hours of television, and we're doing these pay-per-views, and some of them hit and some of them miss, and then you put something on that's got none of that TV, and it hits. What does that tell you? So I think that what they've done is by incorporating all this, they can say, if it does well, they can go, well, it was Vince's ECW, so therefore our fans now think, and this is in their mind now, and I'm not saying that this is right because I don't think it is, but they're going like, our fans now think it's okay and ECW is important, so therefore, if it does very well, they'll go, that's the reason why.
And if it fails, they can blame it on the ECW end of the concept.
Exactly, and they'll just go, well, it didn't have as many fans as we thought. So, in doing the book, again, going back, you have probably 55, 56 years worth of knowledge of this business. What were you trying to convey, I guess, in the book? What was kind of like your goal with the book when you first started? And also, what type of things do you wish you had more space for? And what type of things do you wish that you could have gotten in?
More of the nostalgic things.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of wonderful stories about other than wrestling itself. I know that sounds silly, but it's really true. It's just there's an entire book on Boys Ranch. There's an entire book on West Texas. You could go into that forever. Just great stories and great things with great people that a lot of wrestling fans know, and I would like to have done that, and I would like to have gone into. I could have put together. Scott and I could have done 300 pages or 400 pages up to my father when he passed away. Mm-hmm. I really feel we could have done that, you know, and had a great deal of interest about the past, you know. But I might be wrong. I don't know, you know. What else would I like to? I wanted to educate, along with. I wanted to educate the fan. Mm-hmm. I wanted to. Wrestling is a wonderful thing. Believe me, wrestling can't do anything mean to anybody. You know what I mean? It's wrestling itself is a wonderful thing, and the business was a wonderful business for a great many years, and it's still a wonderful business to the guys that are making great money in this day and age, and it's a wonderful business even to the guys that are just on the fringes of it and just working for the heck of it, you know, and going out there and having a match and enjoying their lives. That's important too. It's something that I love, and I wanted to convey that love of wrestling to the fans out there and to the people out there that just happen to pick up that book and read it, and hope that they, after they read it, they have a little compassion for our business too, and like it a little more than what they did before they opened the first page.
What was your favorite, if you had to pick a favorite time and place in your career, or a few of them, because there's probably been a lot, what comes to mind?
You know, is really what comes to mind to me right now, you know, the early days, the really wonderful days that were in Florida. My wife and I were down there, had a great time in 1967, and making $225 a week, but just absorbing everything from Eddie Graham, who was a great mentor, to Wahoo and Jose Lothario and Big Bill Dromo, and just so many different guys that were in there at that time that were just great workers, and just I was at that stage where I was absorbing, and that's a wonderful stage, and learning every day and accomplishing something and becoming better every day. That was a great time in my life, you know, and being, you know, and being on my own down there. Mm-hmm. And it was also great being with my brother, you know, and being with my father. That was wonderful too, but it was great being alone too.
Now, you know, one thing, I just was glancing through some stuff, looking up some stuff on Luthez, and one of his
I was scared to death first time I ever entered ring with him.
Well, I was going to ask you, one of his last main events, in fact, I think his last main event ever in St. Louis, his hometown, was late 60s, and you were his opponent. I mean, what was, you know, I mean, I don't know if that would be the most high-profile match of your career at that point, but, you know, I think it was the first big, I mean, it might have been the first big main event you had in St. Louis. It was one of the first because it was in the late 60s.
It was, you know, the funny thing about it is that the only thing that I wasn't concerned about the program or what I was going to do or what was going to the outcome of the match. I could care less. The thing that I was concerned about and I loved so much and just couldn't wait for that day was because I was getting in the ring with him seriously, you know, and I'm serious about that, you know. I mean, you go in the ring with Luthez, and it was, you know, I mean, shock and awe wasn't in, may not have been in Iraq, but it was at the Kiel Auditorium. Mm-hmm. You know, they might have had it in Iraq, but there was shock and awe that night whenever you look across the ring and see that son of a gun, and at any date you looked at him, he was impressive, and I said it in the book, too. I said it to Scott, and I don't know if it's in a book or not, but Luthez was the type of guy that could enter a room with more than, there was 100 people there. It didn't matter who they were. Luthez could come into that room, and all heads would turn and look at Lou. Mm. And that's the truth. He just had a presence. He had a wonderful presence, and he had the presence of a champion, and he was a champion.
What do you think as far as, one of the big things when it comes to a wrestler making it, that intangible thing is their presence. When they walk, a lot of guys, when they just walk to the ring, if they walk like stars, as long as they can produce fairly well, they can become stars. And a lot of guys who, may be very good wrestlers, but don't walk like they're stars or don't have that, it's more difficult for them to become solid main eventers.
One of those was Pat O'Connor was a main eventer. Don't misunderstand me. He did the most beautiful moves in the ring, and he could walk to the ring with the best of them, and he could do everything. But for some reason, he didn't have that charisma. Don't misunderstand me. He could do things in the ring that were more beautiful than anybody else that I've seen. Was a great performer in the ring. Pat O'Connor was, but there was something there. It was, and it was what do we call color? Some guys have it, and some guys don't. And Pat, he drew a lot of good houses too. But I'm saying that he wasn't that as champion. He wasn't that immediate draw.
Mm-hmm.
Because he didn't quite have that color or whatever it was. Dick Hutton would probably tell you the same thing about himself. Probably one of the toughest wrestlers there ever was, and yet he didn't do real well as champion because of color, not because of his in-ring performance, but something about people, and you've got to be able to pick that out. And not many people can look at somebody and say, that guy, he's got it. He's really got it. It's and not be wrong very many times. Majority of the time. And I hate to brag, but I think I can do that pretty well.
But pick or do it. I mean, we know you can do it.
Yeah. Do you think that color, that presence, is something that you can learn, or do you think that just some people there's no hope?
No, some people there's no hope.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just something about them, It's just something that is just it's undefinable.
Has there been someone who you would have thought, whether you were booking them or just running around because you've been running around for so many years, and you saw a guy and you just said, like first impression, it's just like he doesn't have it, but then they ended up actually being a big star? Has anyone come to your mind like that, where they really surprised you?
Well, Rufus R. Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Rufus R. Jones came to Amarillo, Texas, and as Buster Lloyd, his name was, I think that was his name, but his real name was Buster Lloyd, I believe. I'm not sure about that. But anyhow, as Rufus R. Jones, he picked up that name there, and there was a guy that drew money everywhere that he went. He didn't do that much or that much difference, but he had something that people liked.
Mm.
Look, he sold out St. Louis on several occasions.
Now, speaking of something similar to that, how difficult was it working night after night with Junkyard Dog, or was it not that difficult at that point in your life?
It was not difficult working with Junkyard Dog. Junkyard Dog was a very talented individual. It's just that he had some habits that weren't really too good,
There was also that whole issue with Adrian Adonis taking Terry's match from the night before.
It wasn't a pleasure going into the ring with him at times,
Yeah.
And guy's a very talented individual and could talk on the TV and everything else. And believe me, he could draw money.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
and the son of a gun drew money, too. And there's a guy that was charisma was one of his main attributes.
Definitely.
It really was, and he had it.
Yep.
And he had the dynamite presence, too, and he almost seemed to me like a guy who had it and then lost it later on.
Well, he did. He did lose it, and he lost it for, and I wish that he wouldn't have lost it,
Yeah.
Dadgummit, he is a very talented individual, and would have loved to work with him every night, but it wasn't easy.
We're going to go to Ed in San Antonio. Ed, what's going on?
Hey, guys. Terry, it's always an honor to talk to such a legend. The question that I have for you is, I remember being a kid reading an After magazine, and I was reading a story about you running through the streets of New York with a fake NWA title. And I was wondering what the story with that gimmick was.
What? Yeah, well, that was a great gimmick. That's exactly what it was. You know, as I just decided nobody had ever done it before, so I just claimed the world's heavyweight championship. So I just got a belt and put it around my waist, went up there and saw After, and After took a bunch of pictures, and it just created a chaos among everybody in the country, and all I was doing is claiming to be champion. You know, and it was something very unusual and different that hadn't been done, and it's amazing. It was a whole lot simpler to come up with things that hadn't been done before at that time.
Okay, and I have another question regarding Japan. Since you're such an icon there, how were you treated by the Japanese mafia, considering they're such big wrestling fans and big fans of the Americans? Did you have any positive or negative experiences with them?
They were definitely there and everywhere. It was really strange, you know, as dadgummit, I didn't deal with them that much. I really didn't, because I was very busy, and they don't like people, you know. I mean, I love my fans, and they don't like the fans too much. And that's really the truth, and they don't want to be around them, you know. I mean, that's not their idea of a good time. Their good idea of a good time is to go to some bar and stay out till 4 in the morning, or go to 10 bars and be out till 4 in the morning, you know. And it's a great deal, you know. They pay for everything, the food and everything, and the meals and all of that. But I just would rather be with my own personal fans and friends over there, and that's what I always do over there, you know.
We have Terry Funk and his co-author Scott Williams, the book More Than Just Hardcore. We're going to have them on for about another half an hour, and then we're going to have Bill Goldberg, whose TV show Automaniac actually debuts tonight on the History Channel. They have the first 1 hour show, and then it will be airing for about, I don't know how many straight weeks, but about 10 weeks on Wednesday night, the first season of it. So anyway, that's the...
Have you known about that for a while?
With the Automaniac show that's going to air tonight? I think I knew about it for about 2 days.
Okay, so did I. I was just wondering.
I knew about the...
Nowhere.
Okay, I knew that the show was going to be on Wednesday nights. I've known that for several weeks.
Okay.
But the show tonight, yeah, I just found that out.
What's the premise of the show?
I think that he just, looks at history of cars.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's a big car freak.
He doesn't punch any windows in them, does he?
Doesn't punch any windows in them, no. He's trying to, you'll hear in the interview, but he's trying to rest his joints after all the years of football, wrestling, and heavy weightlifting, and, you know, and Terry, I'm sure you can sympathize with this. There comes a point where everything's all of a sudden hurting.
It sure does.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, and I'll tell you what, this year's been a tough year on me too, you know.
Really?
Oh gosh, I've had everything in the world happen to me this year, and just, you know, you reach a certain point and things just start going wrong, you know. It just... Well,
that's true.
The engine don't run like it used to.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, one thing, and, you know, we've got a full bank of calls, and we're going to start taking calls right after the first break, but I wanted to ask you, you know, someone brought up Japan and everything. When you first started going to Japan, what was your initial impression? And when you start around 1970-ish, I'm not sure the exact year, but it'd be right around there, I guess.
Yeah, around 71, 72.
Uh-huh.
Went over there, and it was very different. It really was, you know. I mean, we were still into that mode of the Japanese would come over to the United States, Charlie Moto or whoever it might be, Duke Kiyomoto, or whoever it might be, and they were big heels because the war was still very much thought of by both countries, you know, and same way whenever we went to Japan, but it got old after a period of time, and, you know, like whenever I first went over there, though, as we went to Hiroshima, and they wouldn't let us go in a bar.
Wow.
You know, we couldn't go in a bar and drink a beer in there. They said, no Americans allowed, no Americans allowed, you know. So things have really changed since that time, you know. That was pretty drastic measures there, you know, not to let you in a bar, you know.
Yeah.
To have a beer, you know. And, yeah, everything was, everybody dressed in black and white. That's all they wore, black suit, white shirt, white tie. And everyone over there did that. There might be, whenever I first went over there might be a total of maybe possibly 10 women at the arena at the most. It was predominantly male, you know. And if you think about it, they were very, they were ages, they were all in business. They were businessmen, you know. And if you think about it, if you took 500 businessmen over here and put them in a arena, they'd probably act somewhat the same way that they did.
Got a bunch of callers wanting to talk to Terry Funk, so we're going to start with Gino in San Francisco. Gino, what's going on?
Yes, hi. I just want to say I'm reading the book right now. My friend got it for me, and it was like the best present ever. I'm close to the part where you're getting into the business, and I really love the book.
It gets better.
I'm pretty sure it does. I just want to say, going back to the days of the NWA, I remember you put a bag over Ric Flair's head, a plastic bag, and that was like when I was a kid, that was one of the scariest things. I really thought you were trying to kill him, and I wonder who came up with that idea, and if you were afraid to do it on TV. And I know WWF would have never done anything like that.
They didn't like it when he did it.
They certainly didn't like it.
Yeah.
They were very upset with it, and we had the okay on it. I forget who gave the okay on it, but they gave the okay on the thing, and we did it, and it was pandemonium. It really was. They were very, very upset with that whole situation. And who came up with the idea? I think it's a combination of Gary and myself and the whole booking committee at that time.
Wow. Yeah, I just
kind of agreed to it, and I couldn't believe, you know, if you did something like that in this day and age, they probably would say absolutely nothing about it. You know.
Probably not right now. It was weird. It was just a weird thing because I've seen so many crazy things, but that one on at that point, I mean, they actually made you apologize on television for it.
Absolutely, made us apologize for it on TV, and that was it was just crazy. I could not figure out why they just went absurdly nuts over it. Like, and I can understand in a little bit of a way.
Yeah.
You know, putting a plastic bag on the head isn't quite the proper thing for your children to be doing.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow. And I just wanted to say I appreciate you not involving yourself with Vince McMahon's ECW show. You should be tribute to that. Vince McMahon and WWF are a bunch of snakes.
Well, you know, they've done a lot of good for wrestling. I don't want it to be a Vince bashing thing, but when it comes to the history of ECW, their history of ECW that they espoused on Monday was very questionable, to say the least. Scott, what was
horrible?
Scott,
Kurt Angle's going to bring people there too. What is this?
You know, the one thing that I want to know, you know, is Dave. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Is you know, what if the other show is very successful?
The show that you're on, or the show that they're?
The show that I'm on.
I think the show
successful.
The show that you're on is already successful in the sense of, you know, it sold out, you know, weeks and weeks ahead of time.
That's great.
So now it's just a question of being a good show. You know, one of the things that I wanted to bring up, because this is probably going to turn out
to be very hard for us to do. It's produce a good show too.
Yeah, I mean, you have to produce a good show. Now, you did an interview. I'm not sure exactly when you did it, but I've heard about it from several different people for the DVD that they're doing. More than just hardcore, I think. Well, that's the name of your book, but there's hardcore. They're doing. Jeremy Borash is doing a DVD in conjunction with the show on June 10th in Philadelphia that you're going to be on.
I want to say the website for that is hardcorehomecoming.com, but I might be wrong about that.
Okay, but we're going to actually have Jeremy Borash on the show probably in the next, maybe even this coming Sunday with Shane Douglas. But in a gist, I mean, they said that you did one of the best interviews they had ever seen on that for that DVD regarding ECW.
Well, it's so simple to do the best interview whenever you feel it, whenever it's just what you feel and what you believe and what you are saying. That's the simplest of interviews. That interview was kind of like Beyond the Mat. Somebody said to me, they said, "Well, boy, you did a good job of acting." I said, I wasn't acting. And very serious, that's a very serious thing with me, is ECW is, and the whole thing means a great deal to me, and it really does, and it's was a very special time in my life, and I enjoyed it very much too, and felt like I was part of something special, and I was very upset whenever the man went ahead and not Vince bashing either, but whenever he did the rise and fall of the ECW, it was one of his biggest selling tapes, and I certainly have not and will not see one penny out of that. And nobody has ever given me a penny from a ECW show, so I don't know how legal that is or how they ever got the rights to it, because I never signed anything.
Well, they apparently think it's pretty legal because they're featuring you in some of the ads for the pay-per-view.
That's true. I should actually mention this, that they...
Well, I don't give a damn, excuse my language, but I really don't care. I'm not against... That'd be the last thing I'd do is go sue somebody over it, but, I'm just not that kind of guy, but I can get upset about a few things, though.
Yeah, because they have a poster ad campaign in New York, and they have a couple different posters, and two of them are actually of you. One was you and your brother against Public Enemy, and the other one was you and Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, with the flaming branding iron of the. I guess they had 5 or 6 of them. And it's just interesting because it's.
Well, I'm glad they're doing that.
People, you get to be seen on subway stations.
I don't know. I don't know what the heck I'm doing in this world of wrestling right now, but dadgummit, it's really important to me that we go out there and the three of us kind of return back into that ring and kind of raise the level of the bar and try to have a decent match and hopefully we can give the people something that they're going to enjoy and like and let me go on down the road.
Yeah,
and I'm really sincere about that.
Have you talked to Sabu at all lately?
No, I haven't. And as I know, he and Shane are both going to try to. They're both going to be doing their very dead level best. So.
Yeah, because just for those who don't know, the show, which is in Philadelphia on the 10th, it's Terry, Shane, and Sabu, which is a rematch of a match that took place more than 10 years ago and was the match that in many ways put ECW on the map, not on a national television basis because their TV came much later, but as far as just going from an independent promotion that ran in Philadelphia to being something that was revolutionary in a sense because there had been three-way matches before, long before that match in ECW, but that was the match that put the term three-way dance on the map in wrestling. And every time you see a three-way, it's stemmed from that one.
And the thing, it really was a great three-way. It was very innovative. All of us were on that night, and it was a great job by everybody that was in the ring. And that's really, it's kind of like Abdullah and I whenever we were in Japan, and that's what's so scary about this dadgum thing, because here we come back and it's 10 years later, and dadgum, let's be a realist about it. I'm 60 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope to heck I can do something out there that somewhat excites the people, but I'm certainly not who I was 10 years ago.
Yeah. We're gonna take
Dame Douglas is not, and here's Sabu, who's coming off of injuries and everything else, and it's gonna be a tough night, and for acceptance, because I know that in Japan, as they look at that match with Abdullah and I, and those old matches, like they remember them and everything else, and 15 years pass and they get bigger. It's kind of like when you was a kid, when you go back and look at you had your bedroom and it was great big, and then whenever you get older in life, you go back home and look at your bedroom, it's very small. And that's kind of the way that this match could be, I hope it isn't.
We gotta go. We gotta take as many calls as we can because we're running out of time. Travis, Los Angeles, you're up next with Terry.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Going good.
Dave, actually, this is Travis from the Blind Date show.
Oh, from Blind Date. You sent me the tapes when the WWE guys were the Tough Enough people were on the Jackie Gata show, which was a classic that they should have followed up on that they never did.
We're actually trying to put together a TNA week also.
Oh, that should be interesting.
That's very stressful right now. Real quick, I wanted to say, first of all, I'm actually working. I can't say what I'm doing, but I'll be working the Diva Search out here in the next 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. So
once that's all done, hopefully that Sunday I can call you and kind of give you a heads up on what to expect.
Awesome.
From that. But real quick, it's an honor to talk to Terry. And being in L.A., Terry, you've come down here a lot in the past couple of years. Unfortunately, had to attend some of the XPW shows, and I want to get your thoughts on that whole company, Rob Black, and the whole XPW division while it was around.
Rob Black was, I had no idea who Rob was. I got to be the dumbest guy in the world, and my wife and I went out there, and it was, and I don't know how Rob knew it or anything, but it was my birthday, and dadgummit, they all brought a big, huge birthday cake down there for me, and he and Lizzie did, and I thought they were about the greatest people in the world, and I had no idea who in the world Rob Black was. Then I hear that he's chopping fingers off. My wife and I were just thrilled with him. We just thought he was the greatest guy in the world.
Dave, I'll give you after the Diva.
Okay, thanks very much.
Ignorance is bliss, guys.
We're actually going to be going to Bill Goldberg in just a minute. Bryan, you there right now? Bryan is not here.
Now I'm here.
Oh, Bryan, okay, good. One of the things I wanted to talk to Terry Funk about, but we got sidetracked into another issue. If you were Lita, what would you have done with this situation as far as would you have done the angle or no? Because that's a real intriguing one to me, is the thought of she could have said no. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but there's way more to it than just asking what I would do, because I don't think I would have gotten myself in Alita's situation in the first place.
Yeah.
And the fact that she did get herself into that situation makes the answer a whole lot different.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah. We're going to hit to Bill
about the whole deal.
Yeah, we're gonna hit to the Bill Goldberg tape right now. So let's go to the interview I did the other day with Bill Goldberg. Okay, welcome back to Wrestling Observer Live. I'm Dave Meltzer, editor of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, and we're here with Bill Goldberg, whose movie started this weekend, The Longest Yard, with several pro wrestlers: Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bill Goldberg, Kevin Nash, Giant Singh, Bob Sapp was in it as well, and it's kind of ironic the day that the movie opened. Bill, of course. You were a big fan of the original movie, weren't you?
Absolutely, man. 74, growing up as a kid, all I ever wanted to do was play football. Nitschke was a hero of mine, and I was into Trans Am's, and I was into Burt Reynolds. So, it was kind of a natural fit.
Now, did they come to you, or did you go to them when you heard when this movie was coming around?
I think it was a mutual deal with my the talent agency, and the usual protocol happened.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's kind of a weird irony that Eddie Albert passed away the day the movie was going to open.
Yeah, that's unfortunately a damn shame,
Yeah. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, how's married life treating you, for one thing?
Oh, it's beautiful, man. The beast has been tamed.
Really? Now, in doing the movie, you've done a couple of movies now, and you've got Santa Slay coming up pretty soon as well. Do you have anything coming up as far as next films or next things on your plate?
Next thing's on my plate, man. Actually, today's what, Friday, Sunday. I've got a premiere, kind of a sneak premiere of a TV show on the History Channel called Automaniac, which is kind of a baby of mine. It's the History Channel wants to not necessarily corner the market, but they want to get into the market of the car enthusiast, man. So it's and I think it's widely known that I have a pretty neat little collection of cars, and it's something that I very much enjoy. And to be a host of a 13-episode show, man, I just cross my fingers and hopefully it'll work. And it comes on every Wednesday night, 10 o'clock Eastern on the History Channel.
Is it starting this coming Wednesday?
You got it.
All right. Now, another thing, as far as professional wrestling goes, where do you stand right now? I guess your last wrestling would have been Japan, and I think that now, did you kind of give up that deal in Japan over doing this movie?
Yeah, you know, it was kind of this or that. Unfortunately, it came to that point. I had a staph infection. I missed one match, and then filming the movie, I ended up missing another one. And the lack of commitment, unfortunately, was present because I wanted to be in this movie. Man, this movie was extremely important to me because, you know, many reasons. I got to be able to put the pads back on. So. Mm-hmm. It was a lot of fun, man, being able to work with Bert and Chris and Adam and Romanowski and you know, Nash and Austin. It was a cool deal, man. It was like camp.
How long were you filming the thing?
I think I filmed 70-something, 80-something days, man. It was
a long time.
Dramatic.
Yeah. So were you guys pretty much kept together on set? No, did you film in a couple places?
First half of the film we filmed in Santa Fe, New Mexico, penitentiary stuff. Other than that, the game was in I think it was at El Camino College near Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as your future in professional wrestling, acting, of course we talked about the TV deal. Is there anything else that what's your next goal, so to speak? As far as, is there any goals in professional wrestling or goals exclusively to acting right now?
Hey, man, you know, at this point in my life/career, you know, I've moved on a little bit. I've gotten married. My priorities have not necessarily changed, but they've had a couple additions, and I would love nothing more than to be able to step back in the wrestling ring and be there for the fans. It would be awesome for me, but it just has to be the right situation, whether it be in Japan or anywhere overseas. It would, or in the States, man. It would be an honor to be able to get back in. But like I said, man, I would only do it under the right circumstances. Now, as far as movies and TV and stuff like that, hopefully the success of this other TV show leads to hosting job of this other car show. It's kind of on hold dependent upon the success of the first one. So movie-wise, you know, we've got some roles we're looking at, and, you know, everything's just got to be right, man. I'm not taking everything that's thrown at me by any stretch of the imagination. So, you know, you have to pick and choose. I'm 38 years old, and, you know, I just got to do the right thing.
Now, looking back, what business do you think is crazier, acting, wrestling, or football?
Crazier. Wrestling, there's no question about it.
Okay.
It depends upon your definition of crazy, you know, number one.
When you went in, did you ever feel like kind of like, what is this thing I got myself into, coming from, you know, the football world and you know, pro wrestling? I mean, in some ways you know, obviously you caught on quicker than almost anyone in history. Yet at the same time, you know, it was you were in there at a period where WCW was about to self-destruct. Then the second part of your career, the WWE year, was that was a trip, I guess.
Trip, you know, tumultuous. Would that be a good word for it? It was. I was, you know, all I ever wanted to do as a kid was play football. Man, I've said that so many flippant times. It's like a broken record, but. You know, through life comes adversity, and unfortunately I had to forcefully retire and reinvent myself after a year and a half of you know, doing absolutely nothing, trying to figure out what was going on. And You know, I made the decision. The person that was most instrumental in my decision, as everybody should know, is Sting. You know, that's been said before. But did I know what I was getting into? No, but it was totally foreign to me. So I would have to be clairvoyant to have known what was ahead of me. But was it something that I couldn't handle? Absolutely not. Was it something that I chose not to handle at the end? Absolutely.
Really? Now, in WCW, was there a period where, I mean, because when you really caught on, that was the peak of the company. Was there a period where, you know, I mean, you know, you're still fairly new to the business while this whole thing's going on, where you kind of figured that, you know, they've stepped off a cliff and I'm going down with the ship type of thing, or did you really not know it until the very end?
Oh, I didn't know it till the end, man. You always have hope, dude. I mean, there's no question that even though I knew that that match was happening down in Panama City, the last match at WCW, I always had hope. I'm a person that's always going to stay with the ship. I'm not going to jump off the damn thing. Mm-hmm. You know, to this day, man, if I still have hope that tomorrow Ted Turner will somehow resurrect, you know, the wrestling company. So.
Mm-hmm. Now, as far as WWE goes, did Rock have a lot of influence in you going in, or was it?
Absolutely. Rock had a tremendous amount of influence. Rock and the fans, and that was it. Yeah.
And at what point did you? I mean, what are your? I mean, we know that you weren't happy the way everything turned out. I mean, was there a point where you sensed that it wasn't the right thing for you, or
the whole time it was uneasy, man? I mean, there were many people there that were great. Don't get me wrong. But it was just an uneasy feeling. The atmosphere was totally different. It was something I wasn't used to. It was something that I wasn't a real big fan of, and you know, it was totally foreign to me compared to the WCW experience, and that was unlike any other time in wrestling, I think. But I just didn't fit in with that, man. That was it.
In what specific difference did you really notice? Was it like right when you came in at the beginning?
It was everything. It wasn't one decision. It wasn't one storyline. It wasn't one way that one person acted towards me. It wasn't my liking or hating, my liking or disliking anybody. It was just an overall feeling, and it's hard to explain. It just wasn't right. That was all.
When did you know that after the contract was up that you weren't going back?
I knew before the contract was up that I wasn't going back.
Yeah, but I mean, like towards the end, you were kind of. I mean, is there any point where you just go, okay, you know, like this is just, you know, like a show or a decision that they made, or just maybe tired of fighting or anything, where you just said, okay, that's, you know, this is pretty much my decision now.
What? Clarify that question.
As far as like a point in the WWE run where, I mean, where you just said, okay, you know, this is enough, and when the deal's up, you know, I'm not renewing the deal.
Who knows, man? I looking back on it, I always, you know, you have a year deal, you always either look towards the end of it in a light that you're going to renew and continue the relationship, or you're going to extinguish it and move on. But, you know, even throughout that, man, I always, each and every time I showed up for work, I always had the hope that it was going to be better and I was going to enjoy it and I was going to have a home there.
Now, did you, as far as the movies go, I mean, what was the biggest thing that you had to learn as far as going into the movies, as far as protocol, or as far as acting as compared to wrestling, which is somewhat acting, and football, which is, you know, not acting much at all, really?
It's just a totally different deal, man, from sitting in your trailer for hour upon hour, you know, sometimes, to doing, you know, to assuming totally different characters than you would ever do, you know, in the wrestling scene. But it's just a totally different deal. The reality is that, you know, working live TV makes you more prepared to do anything. Performing when that light goes on, Monday night, Thursday night, it was a terrific experience in that nothing can faze me now as far as the camera, man. I mean, we go out there and do our thing and do it in our underwear, no less, and we leave it all, we kind of hang it all out to dry.
Did you, I mean, after wrestling where, you know, you go in there and you do your basically one-take stuff, and if it's good, it's good, and if it's not good, well, you know, you do better, as compared to going in a movie where it's over and over. I mean, was that hard to deal with, you know, like where you just do it, and then it's like, okay, now do it again, okay, now do it again?
No, it's not hard to deal with when you're a perfectionist. If you're someone who doesn't care about the quality of what you're doing, man, then it may be a pain in the ass, but no, man, not at all. For instance, filming The Longest Yard, dude, if you're filming a football scene, you want to make sure that the angle's proper. You want to make sure that you're delivering the best hit you can. You want to and you want to make sure that your jersey's the right way. I'm a perfectionist in everything that I do, so no, that doesn't bother me a bit.
Now, I was working with Adam Sandler. Did you know him at all before? And did he talk to you about wrestling and everything? Because I know he was a fan growing up.
Yeah, I knew Adam, definitely. I've known Adam since I think it was the Kids' Choice Awards back in the late 90s, I think. But our heritage had something to do with our instant relationship. So, yeah, he's hilarious, man. I've always wanted to work with him. It's an honor of mine, and it was kind of a dream of mine. He's definitely been a part of some of the most hilarious movies, in my memory.
Now, as far as Bob Sapp, I know did you meet him in football, or did you meet him first in WCW?
I met Bob at the training facility at WCW. Yeah.
And then he ended up becoming a big time success in Japan, and you kind of, this was one of his, I guess, he was in, what was the movie with Jennifer Garner? I forgot. I mean, I know, but
yeah, I can't remember.
But anyway, he was, but this was one of his, first major things. I think that he's going to get noticed, especially since in the TV commercials they're showing a lot of his stuff. I mean, how was working with him, and what did you think of his work?
Oh, Bob's awesome, man. Everybody, all the wrestlers just shined in this thing, I think, from Austin to especially Nash. I think Nash stood out more than anybody, man. That was great to see Nash get the ability, get the part to show his comedic side to everybody, because he's just one of the funniest guys on the planet. Bob was awesome. Dilip, I know Dilip from Japan, and he's great too, man. I like I said, I couldn't be more proud of everybody that was on set that had wrestling ties, because they all performed very well.
How about as far as the football guys? Were you did you know most of them going in, or had you met, or like Michael Irvin and stuff? Is that new when you was?
Yeah, I knew Irvin. I knew Romanowski. The professional football world is a fraternity that's it runs pretty damn deep. So.
Do you think
I've definitely been on the sidelines when we played both of those teams.
Now, what as far as like football players and wrestlers and mixing? I mean, did it take a long time, or was that something that kind of that both groups kind of got along when they kind of saw what everybody was?
It's instant, man. It was an instant relationship deal, because it's kind of funny when I played football. Football players look to wrestling as an outlet, so they appreciate it. They are entertained by it, so it's kind of cool. So you have an instant relationship with the guys, and obviously I had a tie with both, so it made it pretty easy for me to get along.
You still train for fighting, or is that kind of taken secondary lately?
I haven't picked up a weight since the last day of filming. I've been working out for 125 years, it seems like, and my joints are just absolutely destroyed. And actually, after this PR tour for The Longest Yard and for my TV show, I'm going to start back up again. But it's been about 6 months. And,
really?
Your body needs to heal, man. It's great. It's good not being 295 pounds anymore.
What are you weighing right now?
Probably about 270.
Mm-hmm. I mean, but you're not doing any martial arts training or anything right now?
I do martial arts stuff, but I don't do any weight stuff right now.
Okay. Have you been following the martial arts scene at all, or?
Oh, absolutely. I'm a huge fan. I always have been, always will be. I own a Muay Thai school here in Oceanside, so there's no question that I'm still up on it.
Did you watch any Ultimate Fighter?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What did you?
I watched a little bit of it. I didn't see the finale, but I was a big fan, and I unfortunately my schedule doesn't permit me to watch everything on TV that I wanted to. So.
Yeah, the finale. There was a fight in the finale that was off the charts. I'll tell you that.
The light heavyweight fight, I heard.
Yeah, with Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin. It was just your classic war, you know.
I saw highlights of that fight, and it was awesome. And anytime any guys get in that ring, no matter how good and how talented they are, man, they got balls for stepping in there. So.
Well, when it comes to that, because you've actually trained for that, and what do you think as far as misconceptions or something that there are as far as people who've never trained for it and realizing what that sport is all about?
It's totally different, man. It's like anything else. I mean, if you practice golf, you're going to be good at golf. If you practice martial arts, you're going to be good at martial arts. If you have the ability to learn and follow direction and have the athletic ability to make it happen. But it's just like anything else. But if you don't know how to do it and it's totally foreign to you, then you sure as hell can't defend it. So
yeah,
it's sweet, man. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's something that I had a huge influence on my character in WCW and WWE. It was I'll always have a spot in my heart. I've seen every UFC. I've seen every Pride event since I've been into it. I commentated an event over there in Japan, which was sweet. It was a New Year's Eve event, and I know a lot of the guys. They're very good friends of mine, and they're hardcore athletes, man. I was on the phone with Maurice Smith last night. He's a legend in the world of martial arts, and they're just good guys, man, like anybody else.
Mm-hmm. So right now, you're going to talk about, you've got the television show starts on this coming Wednesday night. Of course, the movie has just come out. Bill, I want to thank you very much for joining us.
You got it, man. Always good to talk to you, Meltz, man. And everybody out there, all the wrestling fans, I'd love to come back, and hopefully sometime soon it can happen. You never know.
Rich in Virginia, you're first up. What's going on? Rich.
Yeah. Oh, hey, sorry. How you doing today?
Doing really good.
Good. One thing, have Terry Funk on every week because he's just phenomenal. I love listening.
Oh, yeah, we'll get him back pretty soon. Don't worry.
Yeah. About Goldberg, when you were talking about his WWE time,
yeah.
As a fan, I kind of thought that was never going to work out in the first place. It just didn't seem like it was going to be the right fit no matter what.
Yeah, I think it was pretty obvious. Was it the first weekend when he put the wig on?
Second, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was the moment that I saw. I don't know about this one.
I mean, even before when they just started doing the promos, he was always a WCW guy, and the whole Scott Steiner thing didn't work. Trying to bring him in, it just didn't seem like Goldberg was going to be able to help him out either.
Yeah. There was a lot of things. I mean, they didn't want to do Bill Goldberg the way it was successful. They wanted to create their own Bill Goldberg, and that was never going to work because people, right. They did some stuff. I mean, Goldberg and Triple H had one pretty big buy rate together. So, but overall, it wasn't a success at all.
Yeah, well, great. I appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Great job.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to go to LeBee in Yonkers. LeBee, what's going on?
Hi, Dave. How's it going?
Going really good.
I wanted to give my dark horse pick for the next round of the Pride Grand Prix.
Okay.
I would put some money on Alistair Overeem over Igor Vovchanchyn.
A lot of reach advantage, isn't there?
Yeah, I think he's looked pretty sharp. He's much improved. People are really thinking of Alistair as the fighter from 2 or 3 years ago, but his jiu-jitsu's gotten better. He looks sharper in the stand-up. And Vovchanchyn, he's definitely a solid guy, but I think people are thinking of him more because of his reputation now than what he's done the last few years.
Well, since he moved down to light heavyweight, he's looked pretty strong. But when I look at the way those styles match up, I mean, the one thing is that reach is going to be real tough. And Igor, when he fought Carlos Barreto before, who had a big reach advantage, he had a tough time in that fight too.
Sure, and I think the one that has a good chance to win the whole tournament is the winner of Rua Nogueira.
Oh yeah. And I don't even know where to go with that one because if Nogueira can get it on the ground, I mean, he'll win the decision, and he may even submit him. if it stays standing, Nogueira's not going to win the fight.
I think if somebody wins that fight decisively, we'll probably get a good picture of who's going to be the dominant fighter in about 2 years of Pride.
Yeah, well, they still have to go through Silva. He's still got to be considered the favorite just because, no one's beaten him yet at that weight.
Definitely true.
So, okay?
All right, thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay, very welcome, Levi. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining in. We will be back next week. I think we'll be talking about the ECW show with Shane Douglas and Jeremy Borash, as well as we'll be taking your phone calls as with all of the wrestling news. So until then, thank you, Bryan, for joining us, and thank Terry Funk, Scott Williams, and Bill Goldberg. You're listening to the Wrestling Observer Live on the Sports Byline Broadcasting Network. How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling, and I do not have a headphone, so I can't hear Bryan or anything just yet. But anyway, we'll be talking. We're going to have a real interesting show the next 2 hours. We're going to have Terry Funk up in about 25 minutes, along with his co-author, Scott Williams, and we'll be talking about the ECW show that he's doing, which isn't technically an ECW show, and the ECW show that he's not doing, and his feelings on that, as well as we want to take your calls as far as his book goes, because it's been out for a while, and you can call up about that at 1-800-878-PLAY. And in the second hour, we will also be joined by Bill Goldberg. We're talking to him about The Longest Yard, which I actually saw The Longest Yard last night, and it was I thought it was pretty entertaining. I mean, I've seen the original, and the original, I'm getting my headphones right now. Okay.
Testing.
Hold on. Hello there.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can hear you.
I was making sure something didn't go wrong because I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, because the headphones. Okay, well, anyway, everything's taken care of. Everything's fine.
Cool.
Okay, saw The Longest Yard. Bryan, you didn't see it, right?
Nope, not yet.
Okay, entertaining movie. Liked it. Did you see the original?
No.
Okay, it's not as good as the original.
But I better not interview Burt Reynolds.
What?
I better not interview Burt Reynolds.
I know, really. I know he slapped the report in September with the new season. That one blindsided everyone. And it's incumbent. I mean, one of the keys to this SmackDown is going to be the draft coming up, which actually starts a week from Monday, and will take place all through June. And they got to get some big stars or people they can make big stars onto that SmackDown side. So because they got to go in September with something real hot to so when they make the switch over, that they keep their audience and get their audience into the new pattern.
They actually need to draft big stars. I'm not a big fan of the idea of drafting people to become big stars because that really hasn't worked for the most part in the past when they've done the draft. But, yeah, it's going to be... It's interesting to me because I have a lot of friends that watch SmackDown, and I've talked to a lot of them about the Friday deal, and none of them care because half of them don't even watch SmackDown, and the other half always tape it. So I don't know what this is going to mean.
But that's, what's an interesting thing about the SmackDown show is that, more people watch SmackDown than Raw, but people who are into wrestling, like people who read websites and stuff, they don't watch SmackDown religiously.
No.
Because they look at the spoilers and then it's kind of like, well, if I feel like watching it, I do. But to the general public, they do watch it. They watch it, whereas Raw, because it is live and you don't know what's going to happen until it happens, people go out of their way. I mean, like on our site, there's a huge difference between the number of people and the reaction that we get to a Raw show as to a SmackDown show, even though it's, almost every week, 8 weeks out of 10, more people are going to be watching the SmackDown show around the country than the Raw show. And I don't know. I mean, I'll tell you one thing, that those numbers between Raw moving to USA and SmackDown moving to Friday, that could change. That probably will change. And Raw will become more, Raw already is like the A show. It's going to become more of the A show.
Yeah.
Unless they really work hard in the next month and on the writing to change that. Also, TNA off television for right now, although that may be very temporary. And
one thing, actually going back real quick, I was just thinking about the Friday slot. If they're going to be doing the Saturday night main events every now and then, Friday might not be the worst night because you can plug something that's the next day.
But that's right now. That's only twice a year.
Yeah, it's twice a year. But I don't know. There's that might you know, I don't know. It might encourage them to maybe try to do something with Fridays as opposed to, you know, just flat out considering the B show and letting it go.
You know what's interesting is between UFC and the WWE, they're going to be on. One's going to be on Friday, the other's going to be on Saturday, and yet both are being used by the network theoretically to attract the very viewers in both cases on both networks that they're on that are out more on Fridays and Saturdays.
Yeah,
But I mean, I know why they did it with SmackDown. I mean, SmackDown, it was not like we're here to sabotage WWE. It's not like anything like that. What it was that they have a really hot show, the new Chris Rock thing, that they think is going to be like the big hit on the network, and they wanted it on Thursday, which is the hottest night for TV, and it was a lot higher priority than SmackDown, and that's really, you know, all this decision was based on. We're going to go real quick. We're going to go to Eric in Indiana, who is with OBW. Eric, what's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Dave?
Not too much. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Just basically wanted to call in. I'm actually an athletic trainer at OBW in Louisville.
Uh-huh.
Just kind of tell you that, you know, I appreciate something other than biceps to call into and to listen to, because it seems like since, you know, a few years ago when Vince bought up all the other products, there's just WWE to talk about, and you know, I appreciate the show. I appreciate everything you've done in the past with Jim Cornette and everything like that, and I just kind of wanted to call in and tell you that.
Oh, well, you're very welcome. You know, we, Bryan and I religiously watch OVW. You know, just.
I've heard that. Actually, I think I sent an email to maybe Bryan, who wrote a pretty good column about OVW and Southern Style Wrestling. I think it was Bryan who I wrote the email to, thanking him for that as well.
Uh-huh.
So you know, it's always good to know that you guys are keeping up with it, because you may be the few, other than the creative team at WWE, that actually watches it, that doesn't live in Louisville. So
we're not sure about the creative.
Well, I've actually heard recently that they've been told that they have to.
Yeah, that is right. That they have been told that lately.
That's something that they were told, I think, about 2 months ago. So I don't know how well they listen to that, but that's what I've heard.
Well, I mean, as far as like Eminem and the Heart Through, didn't see the original, right?
I'll teach them a lesson.
How dare not to watch that movie from 30 years ago, but the Burt Reynolds classic. But the wrestlers all did pretty well, actually. I thought Sapp and Kevin Nash were probably the best. Kevin Nash was good, I got to say.
Did he steal the show?
No, absolutely not. But he was good.
That's good.
I mean, I could see a lot of people think that Sapp's going to get, you know, a lot more roles out of this one, and I can see that one happening, and I can see Nash getting more. Goldberg, you know, just was Bill Goldberg. I don't know that there was anything, you know, good or bad about his performance. I liked Austin, too. You know, I mean, he played, you know, a redneck heel and, you know, pretty hated guy and did pretty well. So anyway, the movie's a big hit. I mean, first week anyway. Reviews so-so, but it's not the kind of a movie that's going to get really great reviews. I want to remind everyone you can call us at 1-800-878-PLAY. We have plenty of lines available right now, and we'll start taking phone calls on subjects other than Terry Funk and other than Bill Goldberg for the first 20 minutes, and then after that we want to start taking phone calls about Terry Funk, for Terry Funk, on anything you want to talk about. We can talk about the ECW situation, talk about Terry Funk's long career, his book. We have got one line available at 1-800-878-PLAY, so you can jump on board. We're going to be talking about just the normal wrestling stuff before we get to Terry Funk in about 20 minutes. I want to run down a few things before we get started. Number one is SmackDown moving to Friday.